Welcome to the Oral Systemic Connections Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tom Larkin, here to explore how your oral health connects to your overall well-being. From heart disease to diabetes, your mouth is the gateway to your body. Let's dive in. To Oral Systemic Connections, where I introduce you to amazing people. Today, I'm going to introduce you to my dentist, my holistic dentist, who is an outstanding clinician and a really, really interesting human being. So without further ado, Dr. Rachel Riley from Midway, Kentucky. Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
It is cold and miserable in Kentucky. When is this winter going to end?
I know. And a patient told me we're supposed to get another storm next week.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, just be patient. It changes quickly here. Okay, before I get into our history, we have a little history and your background. This is what I want my viewers to know about you. If I was to put 25 individuals of your demographic in a room, and then I pick someone and I hand them your bio, and I say, I want you to go in this room and find Dr. Rachel Riley, and I'll give you $1 million. And they would never pick you out, okay? You know, one of your superpowers is you're so unassuming and you're so humble, and it's just refreshing because we live in an age of flex and everybody flexes about this and flexes about that, and that's not your style. And it's very, very cool. And so I wanted
thank you.
I wanted people to know that right up front. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start. I'm going to brag about you a little bit. I'm a huge college sports fan, everything, right? Always have been. And and you were an elite, E-L-I-T-E, bold, exclamation point, Division I athlete. And I have to talk about this. I just have to. Okay. But before, so you played baseball and your position was pitcher. Okay. But before that, okay, some of the notes, I did some research on the internet. Man, there's a lot of stuff about you on the internet. Okay, high school, 2 state championships, 2 MVPs, Hall of Fame, countless records, 815 strikeouts, 2 perfect games, 6 no-hitters. This was the thing that I just had so much trouble wrapping my arms around. Your batting average was .422. That is ridiculous. That is like Ted Williams territory, okay? So my favorite story, collegiate story, was your first game at UK. You know, you're a freshman. You know, a lot of people don't make that step up from high school to collegiate, right? That's a step up, right? So you have an ACL procedure and you get kind of a late start. And so my understanding from what I read, your first game was against the number 1 team in the country at the time, which was Florida, right? Your first.
I don't think that was. We played like preseason, like not SEC teams, and I had pitched in those.
Okay, but you had a game against Florida, and Florida was number 1, and you had 7 perfect innings, right?
I don't know.
All right. No, this is all on the internet. I mean, it's got to be true, right? So it's like Rachel.
Well, I did. Yeah, Florida was like the game that kind of put me over the. Yeah. So, but actually to kind of debunk that a little bit, I had struggled in the preseason like tournaments. Okay. And I was really like, can I do this? I don't know if I can. And
right.
But I got to a point where, you know, that's when I started learning about breath and slowing down my breathing. So, I mean, if we talk about any of that, like that was kind of when I started slowing my heart rate down. I started kind of like trusting myself, and that was the game that really was the turning point for my pitching career at Kentucky. Yeah.
We had a remarkable collegiate career. One of the things you were named to all SEC, you know, team. Is that a coach's decision, that all SEC thing?
I believe it is coaches voting. Yeah.
And that's a big deal. Okay. And then I got to meet your coach, the infamous Rachel Lawson, at your open house. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So the first thing I asked her is like, what was it like to coach Rachel? Okay. Because I found you to be the easiest coaching client I've ever had. Okay. You listen, you learn, and you execute. Okay. And you'd say, well, that's kind of easy. And it's like, no, you don't know what it's like to coach dentists and people in the dental room. It's not like that. Right. So there was something special about it. So I read a story. Rachel told me this, but also your high school coach, that like in the team bus, Rachel's in the back of the bus reading a book, right? You just always working on yourself, working hard. You just get it. Okay. And I think I think it's very admirable. So, Dean's List College, the top 10% in dental school. Dental school is easy. I want to know about your upbringing and your parents. So, did your parents play sports, or how did this all come about?
Yeah. Well, my parents are the older I get, the more I'm just in awe of them, really. Just how hardworking and how just dedicated in their values, and they show up, and things that they have instilled in me. I'm
Right.
thankful for, but they never missed getting me to a practice. They traveled to all my games, and they both worked full time. I don't know how they did it all. I
Wow.
don't yeah, I don't know.
Yes,
My uh
I find a common thread in high performers like yourself, and
mhm,
generally it kind of starts there. Just a
yeah,
real
yeah,
supportive.
very
Yeah,
supportive.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's
They
awesome.
played sports. I'm not in college, but they were both athletic. Uh but just as an example, in PE in elementary school, um, we had like this presidential test that we do. It was like a mile. It was pull ups. It was how flexible you were, and I couldn't get the blue medal ribbon because I couldn't do a pull up. And so my mom made this chart for like every day that we're going to practice. We like color it in. And then my dad would take me, we started like horizontal, and then he took me on the slide, and I would like pull myself up at a diagonal every day. And
Uh,
like they were just always for something as small and
no,
insignificant as that.
no, but
They
but
were very
once
supportive.
again, being there at the moment, it's all incremental. This stuff is
Yeah.
all incremental, right? And I've kind of watched you, that term incremental. Okay, so we meet in 2015. I had already left UK
Hmm.
teaching there, and we met at a dental convention in 2015. And around that time, I was deep in my bio, my weird bio. I was a founding team member of Ideal Practices, which was a startup, whatever, and I
Hmm.
created their entire learning platform for startups. So I decided I didn't want to do that. I kind of wanted to work closer to home, and that's when I began to work with UK graduates. So then, since that time, I think I've done like 6 startups in the area. So you called me in 2016, and I remember the conversation. It's like, introduce yourself. You said that you had a non-compete and you needed to get a little bit outside of Lexington. You said, what do I think about Midway? And there were 2 things that immediately came to mind. Number one, my favorite restaurant, Heirloom, is a Midway, and I knew that there had been a dentist at one time. Okay, so that was a good thing, right? So at least there's been
Yeah.
a dentist there. Midway was probably 1,500 people, which is like okay-ish, right? And then oh, okay. So let me. I have this really cool application there. There's Midway.
Oh, nice.
Okay, this is like Norman Rockwell 101. All right,
Yeah.
it's just a postcard. Your office is right there. I'm not going to go into the real estate story because I don't want to get too far off the track, but that was a good story in itself.
It
So
was.
this
Yeah.
is Midway. Super cool. Then I said to you, what kind of dentistry? Because my whole thing is from the startup, it's to create the brand, create everything. And you said, I want to be a holistic dentist. And I was like, uh-oh, caution, full disclosure. I said two things, not an issue at all with the consumers. Okay. I can help you create the brand, the marketing, whatever this. But I said, are you ready for your colleagues to possibly make fun of you or be disparaging or, something like that? And you said, yeah, I'm good. I was like, okay, now if you're good, we're good to go. Now, I don't know if I've explained to you in detail why that is. So in 2000, it was January of 2000 because I went and looked it up. That's during the .com boom. I donated a website to Dr. Paul Kaises. He was my mentor. I donated a website to his foundation, which was called the International Dental Health Foundation. Then I also started a Yahoo message board called the Holistic Dental Network. And it was, compared to today, it was very, and once again, I'm just kind of like the moderator, right? And it was a cluster F and a half. Okay. I mean, that was my first
I did,
exposure to the holistic and, the foil hats, and it was a little bit crazy, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so even today, if you go onto a dental, these private message boards, and you put in, I'll see a young dentist say, "What's a holistic dentist?" There's a lot of really negative feedback on that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so I needed to tell you, as full disclosure, hey, that's kind of a loaded term. You're okay, great. Then let's carefully make this like what it needs to be, right? So let's start off with the definition of holistic dentistry, right? Also known as biological dentistry, is an approach to dental care that considers the overall health and well-being of the patient, not just their oral health, emphasizes the interconnection of the mouth, rest of the body. Oral conditions affect systemic health, vice versa. You use minimally invasive techniques, biocompatible materials, and natural remedies whenever possible. Who can possibly not be for that, right? I mean, that's the part that, so we start out to kind of carefully craft your career. So the first question is, what inspired you to pursue this particular niche?
I think, I mean, initially it was almost personal. I mean, for me. So I did have 2 ACL tears, one in 8th grade. That was my first one. I had surgery um, the summer after my 8th grade year and it was always my goal to be a Division 1 athlete. And so from 8th grade on, I had a strength coach, I had a physical therapist, I had a nutritionist, and not she wasn't official, but she taught me how to eat well, and learning that, what I put in my body would change my body, and learning how to build muscle, and so, and just being an athlete, you're in that health and wellness space, and I wanted to be the best that I could be. And then even growing up, my grandma, she was a type 2 diabetic lifestyle. And I watched her slowly decline. I watched her have to go to dialysis 3 times a week for years. And I watched my grandfather care for her. And I love my grandma so much. I wish she was still here. And I know now that she probably could be, making lifestyle changes. So I knew I didn't want to go down that road if it was at all preventable. And I was listening and reading to health podcasts and overall health. And then, it did feel kind of like divine timing that I start working where you had worked. And she introduced me to, she was like, Dr. Larkin, he's a part of this organization. And I thought, what? There's an organization for, overall health and dentistry together. And so I started listening to that stuff. And then I went to their conference, and at the conference I called home and I said, I can't not do this. This is what I want to do with my life.
What if your role as a dental professional could go far beyond teeth? What if you weren't just treating mouths, but saving lives? Preventive dental care is evolving rapidly. The oral microbiome, salivary diagnostics, lasers, biofilm therapy, they aren't just tools, they are the future of healthcare. They're turning hygienists and dentists into leaders in disease prevention and whole body wellness. The question is, will you lead this change or be left behind? This is your moment. My name is Dr. Tom Larkin, and as a founder of Proactive Oral Wellness, my mission is simple: to equip you with the tools and processes to transform your practice and your patients' lives. That's why I'm inviting you to join me and some of the nation's leading experts in Lexington, Kentucky on April 26th for the Future of Dental Hygiene 5, The Blueprint. We will unpack the framework of the wellness-centered practice, new patient onboarding from a variety of really unique practitioners, specific preventive protocols, medical dental collaborative communication platforms, AI and prevention, and the revolutionary products that are bringing so much hope to this movement. And my podcast listeners get an exclusive offer by entering promo code POW. That stands for Proactive Oral Wellness. Every event that I've held so far has sold out over a month in advance. So reserve your spot early at oralsystemicmastery.com. Hope to see you there. Oh, that's awesome. So what would you say, and once again, so this audience can be a variety of people. There might be lay people in this audience, medical professionals, because I'm kind of delving more into the integrated space. What is the philosophy of holistic? It differs from conventional. I mean, it's essentially proactive versus reactive, but what would you say the difference in the philosophy?
Well, I mean, I think kind of like, how, like VIP medicine even is trending toward like a root cause type thing,
Correct.
getting to why things, why am I getting a cavity, or why do I have periodontal disease,
Right.
and how it does connect the rest of the body. Why is it even important that I have,
Yeah.
that I fix these issues that, it always really bothered me, my first few years out, when somebody would come in and they don't have a great lifestyle in terms of diet, and they don't take, oral hygiene is not the best, but they have perfect teeth, and they don't really have an issue. And then you've got somebody that's trying so hard, and they brush twice, and I know they're putting in the work, but they come in with issues. They've got a new cavity every time. And it was really hard for me to just not know why. I mean,
Right.
and just say, well, we just need to do another filling, and
Yeah.
see you next time.
Yeah, because we're all individuals and we're all different. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to be able to help them, and help them know why, and even prevent future stuff if possible.
Okay, so initially I helped, kind of map out a marketing strategy to kind of help you. I have to tell you, and I don't know if you realized it, how extremely bold it was. Okay, you're not only going to a small town, putting your stake in the ground, saying I'm a holistic dentist. Well, what if out of those 1,500 people, nobody wanted to go to a holistic dentist? They wanted their teeth pulled and stuff.
Yeah.
You would have problems. Okay. And so I keep coming back to the fact that that you're a bold person, and it's admirable. It's paid off. It always does if there's authenticity around it. So you put your stake in the ground in a town of 1,700, build it, and they will come, and they have come.
Yeah.
So who are some of the early people, besides myself? You had a couple of people, as far as mentorship. I know, as far as like where you went to shadow, Susan Step, I think was her name, in Atlanta. Susan was a mentor. Who are some of your early people that kind of helped you?
Like in starting the office?
Yeah, just kind of, figuring stuff out as you began. People.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, well, I would say it started with podcasts, and
Right.
listening to. I mean, I was listening to Anissa Holmes, and I was listening to Jamie Amos, and like all of the business. I'm not gonna be able to think of his name. That we went to in West Virginia, but
Oh, Paul Henney, the Barclay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Barclay.
the Barclay, yes.
Yeah. Barclay.
And then really AOSH. I mean, that group,
As an
American Academy for Oral
organization.
Systemic Health,
Yeah.
that was the jumping off point. I got paired with Susan Estep while I was there.
Okay.
So I got to hang out with her, and she was on the board. So she let me come to like the dinner with everybody. So I got to meet all of the board members. So they're like superstars to me, and like,
Right.
but then, at that conference during a breakout session, I learned about ozone. So then I kind of went down that rabbit hole, and Dr. Bob Harris, who's in Louisville, then I went to his course. So he, I call him anytime I have an ozone question. And it was just kind of like, it was wild that it was almost like things were just I was right in the right place at the right moment to meet the right person. And then that kind of took me to another place. And yeah,
you always have been. It's been a sequence, right? It's one step after another. So talk to me about, because some of listeners won't know, the SMART protocol. What is SMART? Okay.
SMART is Safe Mercury Amalgam Removal Technique. That's what it stands for, SMART.
Okay.
And there is concern that, well, all the silver fillings that are called amalgams in the dental world, but for like a silver filling in your mouth is 50% mercury. And so it's kind of like soft metal when it goes in. You pack it
Right.
in there, and then it hardens up, and that's the filling. Um, so another organization that I'm involved with, the IAOMT, they have a lot of research and videos on their website showing when the filling is chewed on or heated, or even brushed, you're getting some of those mercury vapors released. So there is concern for just it's a heavy metal that is a neurotoxin,
Right.
and so
Yeah, I mean, I think this conversation is a no-brainer. I'm not a holistic dentist, but
yeah,
it should not be used.
right,
And part of the protocol is for your safety. Dr. Michelle Jorgensen has a very dramatic backstory of
sure,
what her down this road. She became really, really sick from the exposure of the mercury and removing fillings in her practice. I think she went to Switzerland for
hmm,
detox, and now she's like one of the leaders in the country there. So
yeah.
once
And I
again,
don't I anecdotally, I think that I had some in dental school. I mean, I was in the lab drilling on it and not using water and practicing for the practical. And I was having all these, I was Googling symptoms, and I thought it was from, I was eating too much like fish, like, because I was really trying to be healthy. I was trying to eat. And I was like, I think and at the time I had no idea really of that connection.
yeah,
And I wish I would have gotten my levels tested back then. I don't know, but I think there was some level of exposure that was
yeah.
affecting me.
So these conversations in 2025 to me are a no-brainer. Now in
Yeah.
2000, that may have been, the time was not right, right? There
Yeah.
are many
Yeah.
things that are aligning themselves at this moment, as you can
Yeah.
you can feel it in your gut, right? As far as like,
Yeah.
and like I said, it's been a sequence for you to get where you're at. Okay. How do you balance patient expect? I love this question. How do you balance patient expectations? Meaning, one of the things that I know about you is that you have to know everything, the smallest, most obscure freaking. I mean, and I don't want to. These patients are demanding that reach out to you. This is
Yeah.
not me. I couldn't not do what you do. Okay, because you have to be on your game. I don't know if you keep a journal, but you should probably keep a journal of the top 10 things that people have asked you that you're like,
That's true. That's true. But you give me too much credit too, because a lot of times I'll say I don't know if I don't.
okay.
I mean,
And that's
it,
always the best answer.
yeah. And then I go research it. I mean, even just this week, yeah, everything's changing, and I feel like even some toothpaste out this week. There's a lead mama that's testing stuff and finding stuff in these whole, even the natural toothpaste. And so I've got patients like, you told me to use this, and so I'm constantly researching and constantly trying to find, just give people the information.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to, lead people in the wrong direction, but
Well, you're
we
not
get new
offended.
information
You're
all
not
the time.
offended. Believe me, there would be
No, no,
the
no, no.
majority of dentists are you ask them as a patient anything and they're offended, and they don't, and I think that's one of the barriers to doing better care is that they're just not interested in responding to these patients. And you have been more than amicable with this. The other thing that I've noticed from afar is the number of young families who want their children
Yeah,
in your environment. Okay, that's been
yeah.
surprising to me. I don't know if it has been
Me
to you.
too. Yeah,
And once again, that is young parents becoming educated about the issues, and they want the
yeah,
best for their kids. Yeah.
yeah,
So another extremely bold thing that you've done fairly recently is that you have waitlisted your practice. What I mean by that is that, and I think it was maybe interaction with your hygiene team where they kind of like, we are at a clogging point,
yeah,
and what are we going to do
yeah,
about this? Kind of walk me through that, because once again, I don't see very many people with the courage to do that. Most
yeah,
practices have this 5 to 10% marketing budget, and they are addicted to new patients like cocaine. If I don't have
yeah,
new patients a month, something's wrong. And it's just kind of a revolving, the back door's open. And you exemplify to me what I mean by closing the back door. You get people engaged and you partner with them in their healthcare, they're not going anywhere. And then you get to a certain point where you say, well, I can't take any more new patients. So tell me
and
about it.
that's kind of how it is, because I just quality and being able to spend time with patients was always like a goal and a value that I didn't want to compromise on. I didn't want
Right.
people to feel like they were just in and out. I
Right.
wanted them to be able to have time to ask me questions. I wanted to be able to give the care that I wanted.
Right.
And we were getting to a point where, and I mean, we got into the same, we would get excited about how many new patients we got. And that was definitely while we were growing. I mean, that was, that was a number that we looked at and we got excited about. But then it was like, I've got all these patients that either they're due for, their recall, or they have an urgent need and they need to get in, and we didn't have any place for them.
Yeah.
And so we had to sit down and have some tough,
Yeah.
just conversations and decision making, because it's hard for me to turn people away,
Sure.
but I also didn't want to compromise the treatment that the people that already, were established as patients were getting.
Right.
So we did that so that
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
I want to give,
Yeah.
yeah, them the care that they deserve.
Yeah. No, and I just, what you're doing is what we classify as personalized care, and personalized care is really hard to scale. Like, oh, I'm going
Yeah.
to get the space next door, get an associate, and then you're babysitting an associate because,
Yeah.
they're coming there for you. Right. And I just think you've resisted a lot of temptations that most people are not strong enough to do. I think your vision and focus is just, it's unreal.
Thank you.
So I have brought people from everywhere to visit your practice, and I'm going to show a picture here of somebody kind of special. Claire Stout from she's in a small town from outside of Manchester, England, and so she contacted me last year, and she missed my spring course, and she said, "Can I just come and have you help me?" And because she was doing a startup, and I said,
Yeah.
"Sure, I've got a guest house, and I'll find an open weekend, and I'm going to put you with Rachel Riley for a day and let you kind of immerse." So what you need to know is that in her new office, this is in her reception room. You are memorialized in another country.
Oh,
Over,
really?
absolutely, absolutely. So I hope to visit her maybe this year, and
Yeah.
and to see her office. I can't remember the town, but it's a small. And she wanted to be the first person to bring a lot of these principles to the UK. So
I love that.
I think that's
That's so cool.
yeah, that's very, very commendable. Um,
Yeah.
I know that you have presented at the dental school, and good for you, because that thing I told you about being made fun of or whatever, you've overcome that
Yeah.
with integrity. That's the only way you overcome that, right? And so you've been asked to present. What advice do you give to a dental student? Because I couldn't imagine what it's like to be a dental student today, because you're getting
Yeah.
really bombarded with a lot of social and a lot of pressure and a lot of everything. Um,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to them?
I mean, really just to not be afraid. I mean, I talk about, because I worked in private, I started as an associate in a private practice. While I was starting this office, I was working in corporate, and then I started my own. So I've cut, I basically just, wherever you are, learn and ask a million questions, and kind of figure out your path, because there's so many different things you can do in dentistry. And
Right,
there's so many, if you can, even within starting your own practice, you can start so many different types of practices. And
right,
so just kind of finding your passion and what you're comfortable with. I mean, that's what we talk about. And it's funny because I've presented at some study clubs too, and people are interested in it. Like, people want to know this stuff too, just even for them personally.
I do.
And so it hasn't been, I mean, maybe a little bit of poke and fun, but not in a bad way.
Right,
They call me the hippie dentist when I go like, but but then when a patient comes in and they're asking all kinds of questions, they'll text me or they'll say, "Hey, can I send you this patient? Because I don't know anything about, the all these questions that they're asking me." So it's been kind of a networking thing almost that, yeah.
yeah. No, it's been fun to watch, and I've said for over 10 years now, I've said there are more people looking for this kind of dentist than there are dentists. That's why my course on kind of advanced hygiene has been pretty
Mhm.
popular, because what I've been able to, just been blessed with
Yeah.
bringing newer technologies and newer approaches and stuff. So one of the things that we were talking about, I've got a course coming up in April, where when you get to present, you are really on the move. You're going to present in two topics, because one of the first questions that I get is, what is it like to, what's the onboarding? What's it like a new patient experience? Because what is it that you do, right? Because obviously you take
Yeah.
more than half an hour, right? And what does this look like? So I think I've got 4 individuals that are coming to do this, and you're one of them. And then I'm going to have you go into a little bit more detail about some protocols, the SMART. We talked about Bredesen before. And one of the things, which is really, really kind of new, we talked about last week, is AI and biorestoratives. And it's kind of, I'm going to be doing some presentation on that. And I know it's a conversation that you and I are having, but this is, I guess, for a classification, this would be true regenerative dentistry. Now, this is in the category of decay, right? We've always had ways to help arrest decay or diminish decay, but we've really never had a chance to take a lesion at a very early stage and reverse it to like a virgin tooth, right? So it's it's an exciting time to be a dentist right now, because what we have is kind of the confluence of some technologies with the need, right? Our healthcare system absolutely needs to be changed from top to bottom, and dentistry is a big part of that. And that's really another part of my conference, is I'm bringing in some different thought leaders. And the idea behind it is to create a blueprint and say, if you're a dentist, because I dentists that approach me are in different stages. Sometimes they're in a startup. It's much easier to do a startup than it is to buy an older practice and make a pivot, right? Because you may have 1,000, 2,000 patients doing stuff the old way, and then you have to go in there one patient at a time as an evangelist and say, no, this is connected to your body, and that's brutal. That takes a lot of energy. So I think the startup thing is a little bit easier, but what I'm hoping to accomplish there is to, and I'm so honored to have you as a faculty member, because you typify, you're the future of dentistry. And I think, and I've shown you Victoria Sampson from London, who's coming, who's like 28. This is the future. It's a bigger part of dentistry than it is now. It's always been, I would say that as a niche, it's been less than 5%. It's been small, right? But the interest right now is at a peak. So as an educator and a coach who's worked at this a very long time, kind of assembling and networking and bringing these technologies to the forefront, I think the time is now. And so I think I asked you, I said, are you ready for me to kind of push you into the, push you out there? And a podcast is a great start. This is this is a great network that I'm dealing with. So, and I think I told you that the producers of this are the largest producers of podcasts in the functional medicine space. So I'm going to be on 5 functional medicine podcasts in the next month as a guest.
Oh, wow. And that's awesome.
And I am chomping at the bit to because when I went to the A4M meeting in December, I really saw us being unrepresented. We're unrepresented in the big picture. There's 7,000 people there. And the dentists, we have trouble getting 100. It's really hard to get 100 people together, on these topics. And we're not represented, and we should be represented, because the people that come to you on a day-to-day basis and they tell you all their medical stuff, and you see the interrelationship between the medical and the dental, and then you treat them and they improve, this works, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Anything we can do. The podcast is a part of it. I decided to kind of have my own and kind of bring the people that I've met to the table, and I'm so honored that you are on my
thank you.
Second podcast, because you're an exemplary human being, and I love my initial story about your humility. I will never lose that $1 million.
Well, thank you. And it's an honor to learn from you and to be a part of your circle, because some awesome people. And I think that's one of your greatest strengths is, putting people together and getting ideas all together in one space. So I'm very fortunate to have met you when I did, and And I
Yeah.
appreciate all that you've done for me so far. Yeah.
The universe is perfect. That's one of the things
Yes.
that I've learned. All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Oral Systemic Connections podcast, where we prove every week that your smile is way more powerful than you ever imagined. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button, share it with someone who deserves to know these jaw-dropping truths, and leave us a review to help us spread the word. And remember, every smile you care for is an investment in your whole body health. Keep smiling, keep thriving, and I'll see you next time.